All right, so it's summertime and it's time to water the lawn and water the flower pots. And today I'm going to show you how to fix the hose nozzle. Over time, the springs inside that run along the plunger tend to rust out and break. And you find yourself pushing back here to shut the hose off. And I find that to be a real pain. So I'm going to show you how to do this repair. It's quite simple. Anyone can do it. The tools you'll need are a flathead screwdriver, a Phillips head screwdriver, preferably magnetic, and if you go to Home Depot, you can get, or any hardware store, you can get a set of springs. This is a steel and stainless steel spring assortment. Say that a couple times fast. And costs about $4.37, and it's a quick and easy repair to do. So I'm going to show you how to do it now. So the first thing you'll want to do is you'll want to unscrew this cap in the back. Make sure that's completely off of the plunger. Then you'll want to use your Phillips head screwdriver to remove the screw in the front. And this is usually a bigger screw. And I usually end up doing this because whilst, for example, this Melnor sprinkler head or hose nozzle comes with a warranty, usually 3 years. I've seen 1 year, I've seen 3 years. I always seem to lose a receipt. And Melnor is usually good about sending you a new one the first time it breaks, but not so much the second time. So you remove this cap, and underneath you'll see this little spring-loaded button, and that's what creates the clicking noise when you turn the knob. See if I can do that for you. So when you select your sprays, that's what makes the clicking noise. So you don't want to lose that. And then there's this little rubber gasket here. You don't want to lose that. If it falls out, you just push it back in. And you'll take your Phillips head screwdriver and unscrew these two screws. And these are short screws. You can see there's some rust on them. They're not super strong metal either, so you want to be gentle. And then take a flathead screwdriver and pry this piece off. And one thing I typically do is I mark the top and the bottom so I remember what direction it goes on. Because the water comes out of here, obviously. And you could put it on the bottom, but then the water would come out of the bottom. Pull this out. Again. And you can see inside here there's some rust. It's from the screw rusting out. And the usual failures with these are the springs they use rust out and break. So what there were here there were two rubber gaskets. Two rubber gaskets and then this metal washer here. And that fits into the spring to prevent the spring from going against the gaskets. So then you pull out the plunger. I'll pull out the spring and get a look at that. You can see how it's rusty. It's ready to go. Usually when I open these up, the spring's in pieces. And I pull out the plunger. That was just my screws from the front falling out. There we go. Put those aside. And so here's a look at the plunger. And you want to check your gaskets while you're in here. Make sure that this gasket looks healthy, or else when it plugs the hole, water will continue to leak out. And then what I do is I go into my spring assortment that I purchased at the local hardware store, and I find springs that are relatively the same length. And if I can't find a comparable spring, like I said, it's about length. So I'll find two screws that are roughly about the same length, and these are going to have a little more tension than this one, but hey, that's okay, it'll work great. And so I will put the small spring on the plunger first, move that all the way to the top, take the next size spring, I'll put that on, and that'll give you some super tension. And you can always cut the springs back if you think they're a little too taut. I'll take my metal washer, put that on, followed by my 2 rubber gaskets. And then I'll put the plunger back into the shaft here. Actually, no, sorry, I don't want to do that. I want to put it in the other shaft. I want to put it down in here. And I'll need to use some push power here to push in the plunger so it comes out the back. See that over here? Push that back, and then I'll attach the cap. And I want to make sure I get that cap nice and tight. Oh, let me show you the cap before I do that. The cap comes out. See, there's a big section here and a small section here, and you just slide the cap in the bottom and then push it up. And then you push the plunger all the way back, and you screw the cap onto the plunger. And you want to make sure that's nice and tight, because if you don't get it tight, you can strip the plastic knob, and you don't want to strip the plastic knob. There we go. Got some nice spring action there. Now we'll take this piece, make sure that that gasket's in there, and I want we'll put that little clicker in a moment. And I want to push this in. This takes a little bit of pressure, so I may need to even get off camera and get out my trusty sledgehammer when things want to be broken. And you want to make sure this is seated in real well, or else water will leak out the sides. There we go. And because these screws are super short that go in here, you got to make sure it's nice and snug in there. And the screws will do the remaining 5% of the job. But because they're so short, you just saw my rubber gasket fall out of there. Because the screws are so short, you don't want them to strip. Now here's where the magnetic screwdriver comes in handy. You're going to put these 2 screws back in. Again, you want to make sure that's nice and snug. And you still want to go gentle on those screws, because I can't imagine they're well made. Oh, that's good. That nice and tight. Okay. Good. And then we'll put our little clicker, spring-loaded clicker back in, put our top back on, and this doesn't matter, it doesn't matter what position this goes in. There we go. Reattach our front screw. And then we should be good to go. Like I said, it's pretty simple. Anyone can do it. And if you get everything nice and tight, you won't have any leaks. And if you do, you want to go back and tighten all your screws. You can see I got some nice action here now, and I don't have to use my finger to push that plunger back in. And if you got everything put back together nice and tight, back in business. Oh, one thing, you may need to loosen this just a little, because if it's too tight, this yellow knob here, if it's too tight, then the plunger, see where the water come out the front? The plunger is not closing, which means you got to loosen this here. Loosen this yellow knob. I'm trying to do it with one finger. And then it'll close up. And notice I've got no leaks. Back in business. Now if you have a little leak down at the bottom here like I do, that just means that I need to replace the washer that's in the bottom. And I'll show you what that looks like, because I got another one right here. And you can get those, see that black rubber ring right there? You can get those real cheap at your local hardware store. You just pull this ring out and put in a new one. So I hope this review's been helpful. If it has, please do me a favor and like it. And thank you so much for watching, and happy watering.